The year is 2040. Humanity, united under Earth Force, has reached for the stars. Our mission was twofold: exploration and defense. We pushed the boundaries of science, charting new worlds, all while keeping a watchful eye on the vast, silent darkness. But that silence was broken. On a distant moon we called Somval, one of our burgeoning colonies was attacked without warning. The aggressors, a formidable species we now call the Minervista, towering bipeds with 4 arms and terrifying. Ant-like heads descended one night and wiped our colony from existence. For weeks we were in the dark. Communications with Somval went dead. Unsure of what happened, Earth Force dispatched a battle group to investigate. What they found was not a technical malfunction, but the chilling remnants of a massacre. The age of peaceful exploration was over. The war had begun. The battle group called us in, the science division, to figure out what happened. A whole colony just gone. Our mission was forensics. Find out who did this and why. As we combed through the wreckage, we found messages, scrawled in perfect English. We warned you. Now you forced us to do this. This world was off limits. It made no sense. Who were they? What warning? Then we found it. Hidden in some tall bushes, almost missed, was a body. It wasn't human. The moment we saw it, we knew. The commander, who was on site with us, saw it too. There was no mistaking the features. It was a Minervista. We'd had minor conflicts with them for years, but nothing like this. This wasn't a squabble. This was a massacre. This was an act of war.
My name is Vanessa. I joined Earth Force right after we learned what happened to the Somval colony. Recruitment surged 60,000% overnight. You see, humanity has grown to over 52 trillion people, with colonies across our solar system and beyond. When we find a new world, we set up a temporary base first, always ready to pack up if another species claims the planet. We've always avoided war, knowing most aliens are more advanced than us. But this time was different. They came in the dead of night, destroyed the entire Somval colony, and left the bodies for the planet's wildlife. It was the ultimate act of disrespect. No negotiations, no councils, just pure devastation. No one does this to us and gets away with it. This isn't about diplomacy anymore. It's about justice. For 10 years, our colony on Somval was a beacon of hope. We sent a message to every known species, announcing our temporary settlement. For 10 long years, silence. No protests, no objections. So, believing the coast was clear, the colony leaders gave the green light to begin terraforming. When Somval was finally complete, a massive community party celebrated our new world. That night, they went to sleep, filled with dreams for the future. They never woke up. Or if they did, it was only for a moment, left where they fell. When the call for war went out, some called for negotiation. But the majority of humanity said no. We gave them a decade's notice. We followed every protocol. We thought we were safe. Now, we're at war for Somval, and our expansion into the stars has ground to a halt. The question is, what happens next? Everything in our world is now dedicated to the war effort. Our factories only build weapons and machines of war. Even the schools have changed. Sure, they still teach basic arithmetic, but the real focus is on turning kids into soldiers, scientists, or medical staff. It took me a while to figure out where I fit in. I was smart enough to be a scientist or a doctor, which would have kept me far away from the front lines. Everyone knows it's usually the less gifted who end up as ground troops. Society just doesn't invest in them. But I made my choice. I was joining the military, specifically the ground troops. At 25, I was late to the game, one of the oldest cadets in the academy. A long career or any leadership role was probably a long shot, but that didn't matter. I just wanted to do something that felt meaningful, and for me that was this. When I told my family I was joining the ground troops, they were completely shocked. My mom just lost it. She demanded I go right back to the recruiting office and switch to a science or medical field. But I stood my ground and refused. My dad didn't say a word, he couldn't. If he supported me, my mom would have made his life a living nightmare. I understood, and I never blamed him for it. But I was an adult, and this was my decision to make. Unfortunately, my parents disowned me. My mom said as long as I was in the ground troops, I wasn't welcome in their home. I broke down a little. I could feel the tears streaming down my face. But then I pulled myself together, went to my room, and packed my things. Without another word, I walked out that door and never looked back. To this day, I don't regret my decision. I was desperate, so I went straight back to the recruiting station. I explained everything, told them I was homeless, and begged to start boot camp early. They said no, which felt like a punch to the gut. But then, they offered me a lifeline. They said I could go to the academy right away to start orientation and some classroom work. It meant I'd get a head start on my future classmates. I jumped at the chance. Before I knew it, I was on a shuttle to the Mars Athena Military Academy. As we arrived, a drill instructor calmly walked up, gave our transport one look, and just erupted, screaming at us to get off. We all scrambled out, tripping over each other. Once we were lined up, he yelled for our orders. He shuffled through the papers and barked, "Jackson, Vanessa, step forward." I did, my heart pounding. He looked me up and down, then just pointed and said, "Go to orientation." I grabbed my papers and headed off. Once I got there, I saw another drill instructor. I handed my papers over, and he looked them over before welcoming me to Mars Athena Military Academy. Then he asked me if I knew why it was called that. I just shrugged and said no. He smirked and said, "Oh no, that will be a test question throughout your stay here." He continued, "So why do we call it Mars Athena Military Academy?" Mars represents military power and discipline. Athena is known for strategic warfare and tactical prowess. Here, we teach these fundamentals. We encourage our recruits to show these qualities in their daily lives, on and off the battlefield. And these fundamentals will be put to the test against those space freaks out there. Your morals, your ethics, your judgment, your discipline, your military power, your tactical prowess, and your strategic warfare. And one last thing. The one thing that separates us from the animals. Your basic human decency. We can teach you everything you need to know about becoming a warrior. But if you lose the core fundamentals of being a human being, then nothing we teach you will separate you from the animals. That part is up to you. I paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. They were deep, profound. I thought I understood what he was saying. But I couldn't promise him I wouldn't lose my humanity out there. Space is a cold, harsh place by nature. Add a war on top of that, losing friends, maybe even family right in front of your eyes, with nothing you can do about it. I just nodded. The drill instructor looked at me and said, "Before we teach you anything, we'll break you down and rebuild you into a warrior. And once we do those basic fundamentals we just talked about, you will understand them. You will know them. You will embrace them." He took my papers and said, "Now, I will take these to the Commodore. Welcome to Earth Force Mars Athena Military Academy." He saluted me. I hesitated. I wanted to return the gesture to show respect, but I didn't. He looked at me, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You will make a great soldier," he said. Almost everyone would have saluted back. Not graduating after doing that is the most dishonorable thing you could do. I know you wanted to, but you thought about it. You hesitated. That tells me you will make a great leader. I was stunned. He'd only known me for 30 minutes. Just 30 minutes. I managed a quiet, "Thank you." He nodded. "Follow me. We'll see the quartermaster. Get your gear, and sort out your housing. Mandatory orientation is tonight at 1900 hours. Until then, after medical and a few other checks, the rest of the day is yours." I was so confused. I looked around and asked him, "Hey, where are all the other new recruits?" He just smirked and said, "Well, you're a day early. They all arrive tomorrow. You're missing out on a major tradition in a recruit's life, orientation day. But," he added, "it's also the most stressful. You're exhausted, scared. You have people screaming in your face, getting pushed, shoved, tripped. That's the first part of breaking you down." Then he got real close, looked me right in the eyes, stepped back and said, "No, we won't need to do this to you. You'll meld just fine with our program. Again, I had no idea what to say, so I just stayed quiet. We walked to medical and he introduced me to the nurse, took my paperwork, and left. The nurse showed me to a room and told me to wait. I had to ask her who was that drill instructor. She just smiled and said, "He's the most highly decorated person on this entire base." He'd seen it all. The Mars-Earth conflict, the terrorist takeover of Phobos, the Belter Rebellion, the Mars-Belter War, and a few others nobody even knows about. If a man like that takes the time to speak with you like he did with me, it means he sees something in your soul that even you can't see yet. He told me that if I let him, he would mentor me, mold me into a soldier. Then she just walked out and shut the door. I sat there in silence, wondering what he meant. Was he serious? Did he really see something in me, or was he just pulling my leg? Either way, it felt good to know someone finally believed in me. Then the doctor and a few techs came back in. They started my enrollment, the doctor reviewing my file, asking a few questions, and finally finishing up my intake exam. My journey was just beginning. The drill instructor came back in and escorted me to the mess hall. I hadn't eaten anything in a full day and he probably knew it. As soon as I sat down, he left me alone again, and I finally started eating. There were other recruits at the same table, and we began introducing ourselves, sharing a bit about our lives. After we finished, we all headed outside. We stood there watching the higher classmen, seeing them running and doing intense drills. One of the other recruits, Andrea, looked over at us and said, "Well, in a little bit of time, that'll be us." None of us said anything. We just soaked in the scene. Then Frank, another recruit, chimed in, "Yeah, come tomorrow. It's gonna be hell for all of us. This isn't going to be easy." We all knew he was right. So, another drill instructor walks right up to us. "Are you the new recruits?" he asks. We just nod. He starts reading off our names from a list, and one by one we all call out. "You're a squad now. Follow me," he says. He leads us over to this big building, which turns out to be our new home, the barracks. "Grab your bags, find a bed," he orders. We all scrambled, digging through this mountain of bags to find our stuff, then claimed a spot. Just as we got settled, he says, "Training starts now. And what's the first lesson? Making our beds." He shows us this super specific way the sheets have to be folded, exactly where the pillow goes. Then he pulls out a ruler and measures it. He looks at us and just says, "Your turn." We all tried our best, but he'd come around, measure, and if it wasn't perfect, he'd just rip it all off and yell, "Do it again." We spent the entire afternoon making those beds, over and over until they were absolutely perfect. Then it was on to our wardrobes. He showed us exactly how to hang our dress shirts, fold our pants, and even our t-shirts. Everything had a specific place and a specific way it had to be done. He'd come by with his measuring tape, and if anything was even a millimeter off, he'd rip it all out, throw it on the floor, and yell, "Do it again." This went on deep into the night. We finally got it right and were allowed to eat dinner. But the day wasn't over. Not even close. After dinner, it was back to the barracks. The drill instructor showed us how to sweep and mop, and you guessed it, we had to do it exactly his way. Or we'd be doing it all over again. This went on late into the night, and only when he was satisfied did he finally tell us to get some sleep. The real training, he said, started early. We all crawled into our beds and were out like a light. Then around 5 a.m., the drill instructor stormed in, flipping on the lights and screaming in our faces to get up and get dressed. Some of us, exhausted, had just slept in the clothes from yesterday. That was a huge mistake. They zeroed in on those guys, yelling about sleeping in dirty clothes instead of the provided sleepwear. They ripped our bedding off, yanked open our drawers, and dumped everything onto the floor. Mattresses were flipped and they screamed at us to clean up the mess. Under the intense pressure of them yelling right in our faces, we had to scramble, gather our clothes, fold them perfectly, and put everything back where it belonged. It was chaos. Next, we had to pick up our mattresses and remake our beds, all before our day even officially started. For those who didn't properly care for their clothes, it was off to the showers. They were given only 10 minutes for a full shower, which is barely enough time to get the water warm. It was a quick, cold rinse, and they couldn't even dry off. They had to get dressed soaking wet, making the rest of us wait. It was pretty inconsiderate. Finally, when everyone was ready, they marched us to the mess hall. We got our food, stood with our trays chest high, and waited until everyone was served so we could sit down as a single unit. Then came the announcement. 10 minutes to eat and dump our trays? So we just shoveled food into our mouths for 8 minutes, leaving 2 minutes to clean up and get outside, where the drill instructors were waiting. The moment we stepped outside, the screaming started. "Run!" they yelled. We had just eaten, our stomachs full, but we had to run. We didn't know for how long, we just knew we had to keep going. They led us into a forest. The terrain was awkward and uneven, but they kept pushing us, screaming at anyone who fell behind. Some of us started throwing up on the trail. You couldn't stop. You had to puke and run at the same time, just praying it didn't hit the person behind you. It was horrifying, but this was just the beginning of breaking us down. Next, they led us to an obstacle course. We had to run and climb a wall, then scramble down the other side. Then it was on to log rolls, jumping and flipping over them, followed by a balancing beam, and then the monkey bars. There was just so much stuff, and it felt like it would never end. The final challenge was jump ropes. We had to jump until every single one of us was in perfect rhythm. And it wasn't just for a moment. We had to hold that rhythm for 10 solid minutes. After that, we had to sprint back to the mess hall. If we didn't meet their standards, we just had to do it all over again. And again until we finally pacified them and proved we could work as a team. This wasn't even the real training. It was just to break us down, to force us to trust each other. Once we finally met their basic requirements, we got a short cool down. Just enough time to clean up before heading to the mess hall for a late lunch. Then came afternoon classes, a late dinner, and finally back to our bunks. It wasn't till around midnight that we were finally allowed to sleep. Can you imagine waking up at 5 a.m. and not hitting the pillow until midnight? That was our reality 5 days a week. The 6th day, that was our working rest day. We'd be doing laundry, mending clothes, and scrubbing our living quarters until they were spotless, because you never knew when a surprise inspection would hit. The 7th day was our only true day to rest and recuperate. This intense phase is supposed to last 6 months, but it all depends on how well your unit gels. Some squads take a year, others just 2 months. But here's the kicker. That's just the beginning. The real training starts after that. On average, it takes about a year and 2 months to become a soldier and graduate. The squad you start with is usually the one you stick with. Let's see if we can make it to the end as one whole, original unit. Follow along to see how it goes. Classroom sessions are the best part of this whole ordeal. Not because of the learning, let's be real. It's the air conditioning, the soft chairs, and the fact that no one is screaming in our faces for a change. But there's a catch: you absolutely have to stay awake. If you don't, the class ends for everyone, and it's back to grueling manual exercises. After that, they send us right back into class to start all over again. It's a nice break, but it's a brutal cycle. Anyway, today we learned something wild. Apparently, there are multiple human species out there, scattered across the universe. Only one originated here on Earth. The rest are from elsewhere. The big mission is to find them. Maybe even meet them someday. I raised my hand and asked the obvious question. How do we even know about them? The instructor actually smiled and said that was a great question. Turns out, during a battle with the Minervesta, our forces raided one of their ships and downloaded everything from its computer. That's where we found the data. Mind-blowing, right? It took the eggheads months to untangle that data mess, but they finally did it. The results are staggering. There are a total of 7 different human civilizations out there. 7. And 2 of them are enormous. One spans 12 planets, and the other has colonized over 24. We have no idea what their tech level is, or even what galaxy they're in. We have to remember, the Minervista are an intergalactic civilization. They've been around for millions of years, an ancient race by any measure. We're still trying to figure out why they attacked this colony, why they keep attacking us. But there's one thing they're definitely learning about humanity. We don't give up easily. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates.
Phantom static, where the phantoms speak through the static.